Hello everyone. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you all so much for the continued support on the last couple of videos. I really enjoy making the chapter retrospectives and the chapter speculation videos, and thank you for everyone who subscribed to the channel. The growth that we've seen in the last month has been absolutely insane, so thank you all so much. But with that being said, let me set the mood. For those of you unaware on what Slenderman is one of the most popular creepypastas of all time, and he was released in 2009. But before the Slenderman creepypasta, Slenderman was just a figure seen in the background of these photos that were posted as a contest submission on the Something Awful forums. But it wasn't until 2012 until Slenderman really blew up, with the release of Slender in the 8 Pages, released by Blue Isle Studios in 2012, and after millions of content creators played it and shit themselves in early YouTube,
And for more than... Whoa.
Slenderman absolutely blew up in pulp culture, making Slenderman one of the most iconic creepypastas of all time. Ever since then, Slenderman has been featured in 2 movies and 1 documentary. Considering how big Slenderman is in the horror genre, I think it would be fun to speculate and go over what it would be like to receive a Slenderman chapter inside of Dead by Daylight. But before we go over that, what's even the probability of us getting Slenderman inside of Dead by Daylight? Well, to understand that, we would first have to go over the copyright holders. To my understanding, there is currently 4 license holders for the Slenderman IP, those being Eric Knudsen owns the story from the original Slenderman creepypasta and the photos made for the contest on the Something Awful forums. Troy Langer and Joseph Delage own the operator from the Marble Hornet series. Blue Isle Studio owns the Slenderman that we see in Slenderman the 8 Pages and Slender the Arrival. And lastly, Sony owns the rights to the 2018 film Slenderman. Well, that's quite a few different copyright holders, so let's break them down and figure out which one Behavior is most likely to partner with. Firstly, let's talk about Marble Hornets. If you don't know what Marble Hornets is a YouTube series / TV show based on the Slenderman myth. But for this iteration of the character, they call him the Operator. And as cool as it would be to see this version of him, I don't think Behavior would go for a copy of the Slenderman. Behavior has stated multiple times when getting licenses, they like to go for the most original version of the license. Unless it's non-obtainable, then they'll settle for something close enough. That's why we have Pedo Freddy and not Cool Freddy. Next, let's talk about Slenderman, a 2018 film. Okay, now that we've talked about everything that was good about the movie, let's just skip past this one because I highly doubt Behavior would try to get the rights for this version of Slenderman. Next we have the original creepypasta story. Even though it was horribly written, I can totally see them with collaborating with just the story and building the characters for the chapter around the story for Dead by Daylight. But I see this one as the second most likely option. But moving forward to the most likely option, we have Slenderman from Slender in the 8 Pages and Slender the Arrival from Blue Isle Studios. Now, the reason I think Behavior would go with this version of the character is because it's definitely the most iconic. Even though it's not the creepypasta version, it's the game version, which I would argue is more iconic. It's the version of the character most people are familiar with, and I feel like because of that, that's the version of Slenderman Behavior would want for Dead by Daylight. But both parties are gonna want it, not just Behavior. But unlike the continued no Behavior gets from Stephen King every time they ask to get Pennywise, Blue Isle Studios has actually admitted to reaching out to Behavior for a collaboration. But obviously they can't say anything more than just that. But it seems like that this would be the license holder that they would want to go to for the Slenderman license, considering they want to also work with them. So, hypothetically, if Behavior did ever obtain the license for a Slender the Arrival and Slender the 8 Pages chapter, let's go over the content that we would receive inside of Dead by Daylight. I'm trying to be as realistic as possible when it comes to everything that will be inside of the chapter, so with that being said, let's go over everything that I would think would be inside of the release of a Slenderman chapter in Dead by Daylight. Starting off with the killer, obviously we would have the Slenderman. I don't think that there is any other name that you can give this killer. It is way too iconic. Plus, we have killers named the Good Guy and the Skull the Skull Merchant. So the Slenderman, it seems to fit perfectly, but what would his power be? Now, typically with these type of videos, I like to come up with the power and perks myself. I did come up with the perks, but with the power, I found a concept for a Slenderman power online that was very close to what I was originally thinking for his power, and honestly, it's better than what I even came up with. So I wanted to highlight it and showcase it for his power because I think it would be extremely fitting. Urban Paranoia. Survivors will slowly gain paranoia through the trial, 2.5% for every 60 seconds. Survivors can remove their paranoia by collecting pages. The Slenderman will gain undetectable when collecting a page and will momentarily increase all survivors' paranoia by 5%. Paranoia 1. Survivors suffer reduced vision. Paranoia 2. Survivors suffer from reduced hearing. Paranoia 3. Survivors become affected with the blindness status effect. And Paranoia 4. The survivor can be killed. Special ability, Sudden Arrival. Hold the power button for 3 seconds to charge Sudden Arrival. When the power gauge is full, while charged, paranoid survivors are highlighted by Killer Instinct. Upon releasing the power button while facing a survivor will teleport the Slenderman to the closest paranoid survivor. Sudden Arrival can only be activated every 60 seconds. With his power out of the way, let's move on to his 3 unique teachable perks, starting off with Hollow Eyes. After a survivor successfully blinds you, the survivor will be inflicted with 20% hindrance for 6 seconds. Unseen Stalking. When not in chase, this perk activates, randomly revealing the auras of randomly chosen survivors for 4 seconds every 30 seconds. And lastly, we have Suited Up. If 2 or more survivors are on the same generator, the killer will gain 5% haste. This effect will linger for 5 seconds after one of the survivors gets off the generator or the generator is completed. Well, with the main part of the chapter out of the way, what other content can we expect? What about the survivor? Considering there's not much characters in the Slenderman games, the obvious choice would be Lauren, the main protagonist from Slender the Arrival. But if we got Lauren, what would her 3 unique teachable perks be? Firstly, we have Collected Pages. 4 pages will spawn in the trial that only can be seen by the player who's using the perk. After collecting all pages, you will receive a 10% speed boost to healing and repairing generators. Fateful Feeling. When on Death Hook, the killer's aura will be revealed for 5 seconds every 30 seconds. Useful Utility. Whichever survivor item you're using will last twice as long, but once out of charges, the item will break, losing it forever. But moving on to cosmetics, what could we see for Lauren? I'm not too sure other than just covering her in blood or maybe just changing her base outfit, but we could also potentially see a legendary skin for her to turn her into Kate, which is the main protagonist of Slender in the 8 pages. What about the map? Even though Slenderman is just mostly contained to a forest, we could probably see a forest map that has the landmarks from some of the games as the main building, like the bathroom for example. It wouldn't be the most stand-up map, but it would probably just be another forest with a building, but I think that bathroom in particular is iconic enough to warrant a main building, and the forest from the Slenderman games surrounding it. But when it comes to cosmetics, I don't really see much choices either. Other than covering him in blood for his prestige outfits, maybe changing the color of his suit, I'm not too sure. But considering Pinhead doesn't really have much cosmetics, it wouldn't be the worst thing to do to not really receive cosmetics and just receive the Slenderman based on how iconic he is. Just like Pinhead. Speaking of which, I bet he's really enjoying his time in the fog. Oh, never mind. He's leaving. That sucks. He just came.
Open the box, and I came.
But overall, I think that's all the content that we would see inside of a Slenderman chapter in Dead by Daylight, and just how likely it is to happen. Personally, I have some high hopes for this, considering that Blue Isle Studios has said they've reached out to Behavior. I think it might have a shot one day in the near future. I also know that a lot of people would absolutely love to see Slenderman as one of the killers in the extremely iconic killer roster in Dead by Daylight. If you liked this video and have any other franchises you would like to hear me speculate about, please let me know down in the comments on what you guys would like to see. I've already covered Outlast, and I plan on doing more of those in the future. Also, if you guys haven't, please check out my chapter retrospectives if that's your cup of tea. I plan on doing a lot of them more soon. But with that being said, Behavior, please give Chucky a Phantom of the Opera skin. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.